Caseus. The Inner Storm. Chapter 8. The following days were spent training intensively. Juro spent most of his time teaching Harbo and his crew about battlefield tactics and combat. Rondo kept in regular contact with them regarding Imperial activity in the Outer Rim. Tosa spent most of his time scrounging throughout the cruiser for anything he could use to put together explosives and trap weapons, and Caseus was kept busy training under Dravok. As he and Dravok sparred in the hangar, Harbo and a few of his men sat and watched while eating their lunch. Caseus parried an attack from Dravok and leapt into the air, narrowly avoiding a saber throw. Landing back on his feet, Caseus bent his blade back, blocking a strike from behind before elbowing Dravok in the stomach and bringing his blade to his neck.
Not bad, but you can do better. Again.
Caseus nodded and took his stance, noticing a few slow claps from Harbo.
Get out. You should be focusing on your own training.
Relax, we're just taking a break. We wanted to see what you two Jedi were really capable of. We've never seen one of your kind in active combat before.
Would you care for a first-hand demonstration?
Dravok, relax. Let's just stay focused. They began their fight again as Harbo stared with amusement.
I still don't like this whole idea. Too risky for my taste.
Oh, shut up, Rex. If you wanted out, you should have said so earlier. You're in this with us now. Just picture it. We'll pull this off. We can retire. We spend our time getting fat on the beaches of Spira, surrounded by gorgeous Twi'leks serving us our drinks.
Rax looked at the two Jedi dueling.
You really think these two can pull it off?
You've heard stories about the Jedi. They've got a fair shot. Besides, the two of them against one man, I like their odds.
I'm not so sure.
Later that evening, Caseus took a walk through the Praxium ship. So many rooms on the cruiser reminded him of the Jedi Temple. Opening a large door, he stepped inside into a room full of dirt and dust. Dried up branches and twigs littered the area. As he stepped inside, he saw a dried up decorative fountain. On top, the statues of two Jedi in meditation. Caseus walked over and gently brushed some of the dust away. This room must have once held lush foliage and flowers, like a transportable meditation garden. It almost reminded Caseus of the Room of 1,000 Fountains back at the temple. But this was no longer a serene spot for meditation and introspection. It felt almost like a tomb, devoid of life. Almost how he pictured the temple after the purge. What was once a place of learning and a home for all of the Jedi was now a sad relic, filled with the haunting memories of every Jedi who perished that day. Caseus thought back to the Clone Wars. Shortly after what happened on Valkor, he took a week off from deployment to spend some time recovering. At least that's what he told his master. Really, he just wanted to be with Sarah for a while. Closing his eyes, he could still make out her features. Her raven black hair, her brown eyes, and her smile. That same cocky smile that made Caseus think she had an answer for everything. He reached out, trying to take her hand. But there was nothing. Opening his eyes, he saw only the dark, dusty room. Empty. He sensed a presence as he turned around and saw the Zabrakian sniper from Harbo's crew. Hi. Zaturi, right? What are you doing down here? Caseus looked at the old fountain inside. Nothing. Just wandering. What are you doing down here? Zaturi stared at him, a distrustful gaze on her face. You said you lost everything. I want to know. Who exactly did you lose? I don't see how that's any of your business. I've lost people too. I want to know why I should stick my neck out to help you get revenge. You're getting paid, that's why. No. You tell me. Who did you lose that was so important that you'd rather risk suicide than stay hidden? Caseus glared. Before he could answer, a loud rumble came from inside the ship. What was that? Caseus looked around. I have some idea. Moving down into the lower corridors of the ship, Caseus and Zaturi went through a door to the lower hangar, now almost completely filled with sand. Moving through the dirt, there were at least 3 sand burrowers, gnawing away at the doors trying to break through. That's not good. We can't let those things burrow inside. Caseus pulled out his comlink. Dravok, get Harbo and his men down here. Level 2, hurry.
What's going on?
The natives decided to visit. Zaturi aimed her rifle at one of the burrowers and fired, but the blast had no effect on its thick hide. Caseus looked up and saw a large support crane hanging above the burrowers. Hit the cable! Zaturi aimed and shot at the cable, releasing the crane and dropping it on top of the burrowers, blocking their path. That should hold them for a bit. Dravok and Harbo soon arrived and saw the burrowers digging their way through.
Harbo, blast those things with whatever you have.
No good. We tried. Their skin is impervious to blasters. Harbo laughed.
Maybe smaller weapons. I'd like to see how one of these buggers do against an Ithorian buster cannon.
What?
Kresh, bring it in.
Kresh plodded onto the bridge, toting an enormous rifle with 4 barrels.
Light 'em up, buddy.
Kresh let out a loud grunt as he opened fire, releasing a barrage of massive plasma bolts that tore through one of the burrowers like wet paper.
That's the stuff, Kreshy.
Kresh continued to fire until his weapon ran out of power. There's still 2 left. Keep firing.
No more juice in the buster.
I have an idea. Throw a few detonators onto the sand. The vibrations will draw them close. When you see their mouths, open fire. Rax pulled off his belt of thermal detonators and lobbed a few onto the sand. As they exploded, the 2 remaining burrowers made their way towards the source and emerged from the sands roaring. Open fire! Harbo and his crew immediately began to shred the open maws of the burrowers as they fell backwards onto the sands, writhing in pain. After another couple seconds, they were dead.
That's what I'm talking about.
Caseus sighed in relief, until he noticed something. Dravok?
What?
Do these burrowers seem smaller than the ones we've seen? Dravok's eyes widened as the ship began to rumble. From the sand below, a massive sinkhole began to form, only to rise out of the dirt. A massive sand burrower, at least 3 times as large as the one they took out.
Oh boy, I think we woke up Mommy.
The mother burrower slammed into the side of the hangar wall, staggering Caseus and the others, flailing back and forth, screeching in anger. All of Tyron's crew fired at the creature, only making it angrier.
Any ideas?
Just one. Kresh, get the Delta imploder.
Kresh pulled out a large cylindrical explosive from his bag.
When that thing shows its ugly mug again, give it something to snack on.
Kresh nodded and held the imploder out. As he prepared to throw it, the creature's tail smashed the bridge, knocking Kresh off into the sands.
Kresh!
Kresh landed and stood in a daze as the burrower started making its way over. Hang on! Caseus attached his grapple cable to the bridge and leapt down onto the sand.
Caseus, no!
Caseus saw the burrower coming closer, grabbing the imploder from Kresh before giving him the cable to haul himself up. The burrower turned towards Caseus, who ran as fast as he could, feeling the vibrations in the sand behind him. As he turned to throw the imploder, the burrower emerged in front of him, forcing him to drop the bomb, which was swallowed by the shifting sands.
Get him out of there!
Caseus looked up in fear as the burrower opened its massive jaws and swallowed him whole.
No! No!
Dravok cried out in anger as the burrower stood and roared. Suddenly, its cries of anger became cries of agony, as a green lightsaber blade plunged out of its neck and sliced through. The mother burrower thrashed back and forth as the green blade began emerging through different parts of the monster's head. With one final stab through the top of its head, the burrower stood still, swaying for a moment, before collapsing to the sand with a rasping gurgle. Dravok rushed down and looked at the creature.
Caseus! Boy, are you in there?
The green blade suddenly sprang out of the throat of the burrower as Caseus cut his way out, covered in slime, blood, and sand, breathing heavily, cut by the teeth, but alive. Yeah, I'm here. Dravok looked in astonishment at Caseus, before his face became rageful.
Are you stupid? You nearly got yourself killed.
What's a Jedi's life without a little risk? Dravok sighed and stared at Caseus.
Don't try anything like that again.
Caseus smirked as Harbo and his crew cheered. His stomach began to rumble as he looked at the dead burrowers. What do you suppose they taste like? Dravok smiled. Later that evening, Caseus and the others sat around the fire, eating cooked slabs of the dead sand burrowers. It was tough, but better than anything else he'd eaten in a while. Caseus ate as Harbo talked to Juro, who had just returned from a supply run.
And then this crazy bastard cuts his way out through its neck. I thought it was gonna hurt, but man!
Juro laughed and looked at Caseus, who smiled. So, Harbo, I think since we're here for a little while, I'd like to know a little more about your crew.
Well, I was born in the gold system. Not a lot to say about my past. I found Crash over here when I was 16. We started taking odd jobs, and after a while the crew kinda came together.
Harbo gestured to a rather stout man with thick stubble and gray eyes.
That there is Rax. If you're looking for a tech expert or a hacker, look no further. We found him out on Old Mantell running scams at the Dedrick tables.
He then pointed to two rail-thin men with thick red beards and scars on their faces.
Right there is Scrag and his brother Minch, arms dealers back on Corellia before the war. Any weapon you need? Well, outside of maybe one of your laser swords, they can get it.
Finally, Harbo gestured to a young man, maybe a few years younger than Caseus, with dark skin and a patch over his left eye.
And this here is Two-Bit. We call him that because that's exactly what he was when we found him. A two-bit thief. But a damn good one. Nicked my pocketbook without me even knowing the first time we met. Together, we are the crew of the illustrious Arabella.
Caseus looked at the ship. A sleek starship with a silver coat of paint and dark bronze streaks lining the sides. It's a beautiful ship. How fast does it go?
Speed isn't the name of the game with this beauty. It's all about stealth. Rax here managed to rig up a cloaking mechanism for it. The only one of its kind, far as we can tell. We ain't got caught yet, and we don't plan on it.
Yet being the key word. What happens if the Empire catches us?
Rax, get a hold of yourself. Have I ever steered you wrong before?
Yes, but let's not get into details.
Scruggs smacked Rax on the shoulder.
Come on, this'll be a simple job. Simple? There's nothing simple about it.
Rax got up and went inside.
Don't you worry about him. He always gets the jitters before a big job. He'll come around.
Caseus nodded and looked over at Zaturi, who stared at him. Caseus looked down and focused on his meal. Later, after Caseus was sure everyone was asleep, he went back into the ship and completed several exercises Dravok had taught him. You. Caseus turned and saw Zaturi, who walked over. You should be resting. Zaturi stood in front of him, looking him in the eyes. Tell me now, who did you lose? What memory drives you to this? It's none of your business. Zaturi held out her arm and removed her glove, revealing a cybernetic hand. Caseus stared and looked back at her. My little brother and I were sold as slaves years ago, when I was young. One day, my brother was caught stealing bread from our master. He threatened to kill him. I pleaded with him not to. He told me he would spare him if I paid the price. He took my hand from me. Caseus looked down at his own arm. Do you know what he did after that? He killed him anyway, just to show that he had power over me. He took everything from me, so I killed him. He got drunk one night, and I killed him and ran. I ran until Harbo and his crew found me and took me in. He deserved it. What he did was unforgivable. Zaturi looked Caseus in the eyes.
He is dead. But nothing will fill the void he left. Nothing will bring my brother back. I just want you to know that. If you kill him, the people he took from you will still be dead. And you'll spend the rest of your life hiding.
Zaturi turned away and left Caseus alone. No, Vader was different. He needed to die. But it made him think. Even if they succeeded, if Caseus killed Darth Vader, what would he do after that? How would he live in a galaxy that no longer welcomed the Jedi?